Those of you who I have not met before, my name is Linda Lejeski, and I am the National Employer Relations Representative for the BeOnAir Network of Media Schools, which includes Ohio Media School, Illinois Media School, Colorado Media School, and Miami Media School. We are now in our second year of these wonderful webinar segments where we offer not only our students and our alumni, but our professional community the opportunity to learn from the industry pros and to level up the things that they're doing, grow their network, and have a chance. I think everybody's favorite part is open mic on these segments because, as we all know, as we're getting started, or whether you've been in the industry, there are always questions that you wish you could ask somebody who's an industry pro. And we bring these webinars to you every other week bi-monthly so that you have that chance to meet with our pros. So for those of you who are here in real time, we welcome you. We have muted everybody's microphone, but there is a chat option available for you. So please be sure to write any questions or ideas in the chat box, and Huda Crable, Career Service Director, and myself will monitor the box, and our moderator, Philip Bufford, who is also Career Service Director out of Ohio Media School in Cincinnati and industry expert, will be our moderator for our panel. So you are really surrounded by a bunch of people who are very, very interested in helping you to grow in the industry. We are happy to have you here to join our roundtable and to have that opportunity to talk about a subject that is really very, very important to many, and that is podcasting. We do teach segments of podcasting in our media programs, but there's always so many questions. And I think the more we get to know on any subject, the more questions we have in that area. And that is truly a benefit of a roundtable such as this. I know that for those that are joining, I see a lot of familiar names here. You've had the opportunity to take a look at our information, as our flyer has been on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. You've had a chance to acquaint yourself with our guests, but just to do a little run through to be sure everybody is feeling comfortable with who we have, let me give a brief introduction. Darvio Morrow is a graduate of Ohio Media School, Ohio Center for Broadcasting. He's been in the industry. He graduated in, I think it's 2005, if I'm not mistaken. He's been in the industry ever since. He is a podcaster. He's a radio broadcaster. He has 3 record labels. He is the CEO of FCB Radio. And we are so very glad to have him join us on many occasions at school and to stay so well connected with our students and alumni and offer so many opportunities for growth. He's going to be here as our expert on all sides of the microphone and growing that business, how to get yourself situated on other platforms, and how to see what it is that you have in mind as a concept grow. Also on our roundtable here, we have Peter Tellep. Peter is a very good friend to our Cleveland campus and really to all the BeOnAir Network of Media Schools. Peter comes to us in a variety of ways for podcasting. He's an audiovisual expert. He's on a podcast. He helps to create podcasts. He's growing podcasts. He's worked with a lot of our graduates to get their careers rolling. Just a really enthusiastic guy who loves sports and loves our town of Cleveland, and really is very engaged in seeing growth and opportunity for all. We have Lucas Tindell, who is joining us from the Akron area. Lucas has been in the industry for quite some time too. He's a motivational speaker. It was said to me about you, Lucas, that you and I have very similar personalities, so we'll have a chance to regroup when this is over and have a chat about that. But Lucas is very engaged in podcasting and production, and also elevating others up so that they can reach their full potential. He has partnered in business with Amanda Dukes, who I'm not sure if she's arrived yet, but she will be here shortly. Amanda's also a graduate of Ohio Media School. it's really my proud pleasure to say that I remember Amanda as a student. I remember her on her graduation day, and it's been quite a pleasure to watch her grow her business in a short number of years and for her to have made the connection she's made over time and the people that she continues to bring back to campus so that we can grow. Oh, there's Amanda.
There she is.
I
Yep.
was just talking about you. Are you okay? We're good? Is your mic working, Amanda? We'll give her a chance to get situated. Anyhow, we welcome you all. You're in great hands with Philip. He's going to moderate this discussion. And again, for everybody that's joined us, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And as we move through, you'll see Philip is very good at fast action Q&A, and you will all have an opportunity to express yourselves and ask any questions of our panel experts. So with that, Philip, I'm going to pass it over to you and welcome everybody. And thank you for joining us in the new year.
Thank you so much, Linda. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Peter, Darvio, Amanda, and Lucas to the Podcasting Made Easy BeOnAir Forum. Welcome, everybody that's joined. So a couple of housekeeping. My name is Philip Buffett. I'll be your facilitator for today. And we're going to really get into this. So a couple of housekeeping things to keep in mind for all of our people who are watching. Feel free to make comments in the comment section. Feel free to throw it when you want to ad lib or accent something that any of our hosts will say. Feel free to say that. When we get to the point of asking questions, what I want you to do is hit your raise your hand signal, and then what will happen is Huda and Linda will start to call on people. Or if I can see them, I'll call on you to ask a question. We're going to do this periodically. So by all means, make sure you know where that is. So when it's time to ask questions, we're going to just go from the top of the list and ask questions. So with that being said, again, welcome Lucas, Darvio, Peter, and Amanda. Let's get a chance to get to know you. We only have an hour, well, less than an hour. So let's get into it. So ladies first, Amanda, tell everyone about you, specifically about how did you transition from whatever you were doing into podcasting?
Well, hello. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I've been having a couple issues, which rule number one of podcasting and anything media, there may be issues. So really how I transitioned into podcasting, I graduated from Ohio Media School in radio and television. And really when I was at the school, I wanted to mainly do radio. And it's funny because I didn't like my podcasting class. I didn't like anything podcasting. I was like, this is silly. I don't want to do this. And I kind of just like, I never paid it much attention until I graduated, and I couldn't really kind of get a job, right? So you're looking Northeast Ohio. I'm from Northeast Ohio, so it's kind of saturated here. And so I was like, well, I really need to stay relevant. If anything else, stay connected, stay relevant. So if at least I needed to prove, my talents, gifts, and abilities. So I was like, I'll start my own podcast. It's simple. I can talk. And I started the Amanda Effect and fell in love with the wonderful world of podcasting. So I think it's fun and versatile. So now I own Dukes Multimedia, which is a multimedia production company. I mostly partner with other production companies and other individuals just to kind of bring their vision and their creativity and shows and things to life. I host, I speak, I do coaching for podcasting as well, and really just encouraging others to bring out that creativity and that gift inside of them. And I think podcasting is one of the beautiful ways to do that.
Well, welcome, Amanda. Welcome. All right, let's slide it over to Lucas. Lucas, who are you and how did you get from what you were doing into podcasting?
Thank you, Philip, and thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm here. It's Amanda's fault. I don't know what I was doing, and she made me do it. No, I was actually, Amanda is the producer of my podcast and a tremendous help in understanding the world of podcasting. I didn't go to school for media production, any part of this. I don't know anything about a microphone, a camera, or a light, but I learned because I partnered with someone who knew. I had actually started doing a podcast prior to meeting Amanda, and she was watching my podcast, judging it, finding the finer points that could be improved. And she reached out to me like, can I help you? I was like, please do. So it's really taken off. And we did over 100 episodes in 6 months during the pandemic. I mean, we were just episode after episode. I started the pandemic in April, first week of April 2020. Sadly, I lost my mother March 26th of 2020. She passed away from breast cancer. And in my grief, I needed to do something to live. Like I just heard this thing in my head, like go live, go live, like go live your life and show the world who you are, because your mother is come and gone, and only a number of people were touched by her, and she was just this amazing person. And so I decided to do a live video podcast and go live on social media and start podcasting and interviewing people and sharing my thoughts on things. And it just grew from there. But literally, it started out of grief, unfortunately for me, but it turned into something that brought great joy to me. Again, I got a great partner in it, and Amanda came along and she just helped me figure out the finer points that she knew. And I've done multiple podcasts, multiple live shows. I'm working on a game show right now. We're working on that right now. But it's limitless. Like when you think of a podcast, it was always mostly audio. And then you started to see video podcasts come out. And now it's just taking off in so many directions. And it's just a limitless endeavor. And it's something I'm extremely passionate. I have a show tonight. I can't wait. So I absolutely love this work.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, Lucas. Welcome. All right, now let's slide it over to Peter, and I'm going in any order. Peter, let's slide it over to you. How did you go from what you were doing to get into podcasting? The floor is yours.
All right, so basically, I came from more of a video production background. So I kind of a very mixed background: video production, software development, website development. So I've always looked at, how can these things be married together. So when we started having like streaming video, I first did streaming for the City of Solon's government channel back in 2006. So before most places knew what streaming really was, we were live streaming meetings. And I was always interested in podcasts, but I'm more of a behind the scenes guy. So I'm more of the hardware, equipment, figuring stuff out, software. I don't really like being on camera. I don't like, talking on camera. But I met with Linda from the Ohio Media School, and actually was introduced to a couple guys that had their own podcast. They were students, graduates of Ohio Media School, and that was the Voice of the Land. So they were doing an audio podcast, and I said, why don't we take this and make it a video podcast? Because I think a lot of people may know that, Google's the #1 search engine. YouTube is the #2 search engine. And by taking the podcast and adding the video element, we basically were able to build a broader reach. And just through making connections, I kind of got more and more into the podcasting realm. So that's kind of my journey. Was always kind of in podcasting, was somewhere, I think, always in the future. But that's how thanks to Ohio Media School, that's really how it came to be.
Fantastic. Thank you for the story. All right. And last but not least, we got Darvio in the building. Darvio, tell us how you got from what you were doing into podcasting.
Really by necessity. I was producing
Actually, I should do that every time that I'm there. Every time I see you, I should give
on
you
an AM station
at
night. And we had a younger oriented audience, but my mind started thinking like, all right, well, how are we going to make this work? We're on the show that I'm on, that I'm producing and a part of, is on Sunday night at 8 or 9 o'clock, whenever it was, on an AM station before they had repeaters. So I started looking to say, all right, well, we got to figure out a way for our target audience to be able to access this particular show, regardless of whether they listen to this doggone station or not. So I started getting into podcasting almost as a necessity, just finding another way, another method of distribution. Because I'd already started my company. I started the company as soon as I graduated from what was then Ohio Center for Broadcasting, and I did some things, here and there, and worked quite a bit on the radio side as well. And then things just kind of evolved. And then after I left that, to create the network. When I first did it, it was actually radio oriented. And we had several online radio stations and stuff like that, which is something I was very familiar with because I created my first station in 2006 after I graduated. I was like 19. And so I was very familiar with it, but the company we were working with at the time for the streaming and everything else went bankrupt. So it was like, all right, well, we gotta figure out, do something, or we don't have a network anymore. And then, we just pivoted to focusing, full time as far as the radio side for us, full time on podcasting. And the podcast network has grown significantly. We've had, hit shows. We've had celebrities that have come and been a part of the network now, and as hosts and as guests and things like that. And then we were able to pivot back in 2019. I started working with iHeart as kind of like a affiliate, distribution type deal, and we were able to get back in the radio space and produce radio stations, and iHeart distributes them across their platform. But the podcasting space was so strong for us at that point. It went from being kind of like it was first a necessity, then it became kind of like an addition to, now it's a focal point.
Love it. Love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are currently in right now, you see right now we have a plethora of stories. We've got 4 different stories, people with different experiences. Lucas just was doing it, something, a tragedy in his life. By the way, my condolences, Lucas, to the loss of your mother, but then it inspired you. So I get that 100% because that happened to me as well. And then Amanda went from being in school and then transitioned into podcasting. Peter was doing video and said, hey, let's take this audio stuff and add some video to it. And then Darvio was already doing things, and then company went bankrupt, and then you have to pivot. You've got a lot of stories here. So with that being said, here are some numbers for you. In 2020, Spotify recorded that there were over 3.2 million podcasts on their channel. 3.2 million podcasts in 2020. We're currently at 2023. So I'm going to ask this question to Lucas, Amanda, Peter, and Darvio. What do people misunderstand about what podcasting is? I'm going to throw this first over to, let's see, Darvio. I'm going to throw it over to you first. What do people misunderstand about what podcasting is, especially in like that Spotify recorded 3.2 million podcasts in 2020?
That all you have to do is crack open the mic and you'll be the next star tomorrow. I think part of the issue that I've seen is it's a gift and a curse. The barrier of entry has been lowered. The technology, the access to technology has been lowered, which is a good thing because it allows people like myself and Amanda and Lucas and Peter to be able to create the things that we create without having to have millions of dollars to start like you would have, back in the day. But at the same time, with the barrier of entry being low, there are professionals like us who use it, and then there are people who just think they can just come off the street, crack the mic open, start a show, and they'll be a star overnight. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions because it is so popular now, because you do see people having success in this space, that a lot of people don't take the amount of work that you have to put in, they don't take it seriously enough.
Love it. All right, let's pivot it over to Lucas. Lucas, you did 100 podcasts in 6 months. What is the biggest thing that people misunderstand, from your opinion, from your point of view and experience, about podcasting?
One thing I think people misunderstand is that it's a get rich quick scheme, and that somehow you're going to go live or record your deal, and that everybody cares about what you say. Like there's people out there that don't care at all about your opinion. Most people really only care about their own opinion. And they might want your opinion to inform their opinion, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to have an opinion. So they're not going to pay you, and sponsors and everybody's not going to jump on you, one, until you have to establish an opinion about something, and narrow that down and figure out what you're talking about. And then you have to love it. Like I think if you don't love it, that's why I say it's not a get rich quick. Don't get in like as Darvio said, there's a low barrier of entry. Anybody can get into the game. Anybody can write a book now. Anybody can put a song out on SoundCloud now. That doesn't mean anybody's going to listen to it. So be careful about the idea that everybody's going to love it because your spouse loves to hear you talk, right? Or your children have to hear you talk, right? Somebody else is like, I have millions of options, and I have audiobooks, and I have TV. So my thought is, I'm not just competing with other podcasters. I'm competing for your attention with everything from your dog to your TV, to your spouse, to your children, to all the music that's out there and all the things that there are to entertain someone. So let me not be so quick to think everybody owes it to me and then the sponsors and everybody owe me money. I need to do this because I love it.
Love it. Yes. All right, Peter, I'm coming to you now. What is the biggest thing that you've discovered, that the biggest misunderstanding when it comes to podcasts, especially from your background transitioning from audio podcasting to video podcasting?
Well, first of all, I was going to say, Lucas, that hurts. I have music on Spotify, but you're right. Because I think the biggest misconception really is that people are going to care about what you have to say. And Darvio is correct with the low barrier of entry. It makes it a lot easier for people to get out there, but it's a lot of work. You have to have consistency, because a lot of people, they'll make an episode. Maybe they'll make an episode in a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. If you have something that resonates with anybody, you have to keep up with it, and it's a lot of hard work. And hats off to Lucas for 100 podcasts in 6 months. That's a lot of work. But yeah, really, I think people, just because it's easy to get into, they think it's easy to do, and it's not easy to do. So I think that's the biggest misconception I've seen. And you're right, though, Lucas, too, about the people think they're gonna, turn on their mic and they're gonna get rich because everyone's gonna care about what they think. And you'd be surprised that there's a lot of people that think the same thing you do, but they may present it a lot better than you do, and they're the ones that are going to get the following.
Love it. Love it. Now, Amanda, I'm coming to you last because these guys gave their opinion, and maybe it's just guys thinking this. So let's get the woman's perspective. And I know that you contributed to Lucas's 100 podcasts in 6 months. So, I know you wanted to pop your collar or pop your turtleneck while you were seeing that. So what is the biggest misunderstanding that you have experienced when it comes to podcasting?
So I kind of really love going last. I'm going to offer an optimistic point of view. This is hard work, right? This is hard work. I think anything you do, whether it's hard work, not hard work, it's a lot of work. Because if it's hard work, then you might be doing something wrong. It should flow naturally from you. So for me, your podcast has to be an extension of you, which means I can't copy what Lucas does. I can't copy what Darvio does or how Peter's doing it. They can't copy me. It's an extension of me. So one, knowing yourself and what you want to bring specifically is the common missed thing. They listen, they hear, they watch all these other podcasts, and they're trying to mimic it. You should mimic the process, not the creativity, if that makes sense. So to me, that's what, when I learned to do my show, I didn't care what following I got. Like, it didn't matter. It's okay that I helped Lucas instead of hosting my own show, because I knew what I was bringing there. There was still a piece of me in what he was doing, right? Whether I was on camera or behind it. So I think that really knowing who you are and bringing that to your podcast as an extension, it's going to be a successful podcast because you're successful with you, no matter what the numbers look like.
Love it. Love it. All right. So as you guys can see, we've got experience here. Make sure you're putting comments in. In about 5 minutes, we're going to open it up to some questions, probably about 10 questions, and then we're going to shut it back down to get more into who these individuals are and their experience and their advice. So while we getting ready, and again, make sure you hit the raise your hand button when it's time. We're going to do that exactly at 2:00. So 5 minutes before we get to that point of opening up questions for about 10 questions. But before we get to that, here's the question that I want to ask, and I'm going to ask the producers first before we go to the talent. Who should be on the camera and on the mic, and who should not be on the camera, on the mic? Peter, I'm gonna give that to you first.
Well, that's a tough one, only because I should not be on the camera or the mic. But I do participate in one of the podcasts that I produce. But really, it's a tough question. It really is the brand. And it goes back to what Amanda said about, you can't copy other people's creativity, but the process. And what you want to have, the people you want on the camera and on the mic are the people that are passionate about the subject they're talking about. So, we'll get in on the Voice of the Land. We'll get into some sports, talk, and they'll talk. Kevin Arnold, one of our hosts, is a huge soccer fan. I know nothing about soccer, and I know that when Kevin's talking soccer, I shut my mouth because I really have nothing. I have nothing to add of any value to the listening audience for that. I do love football. I'll talk football with the guys, but it's when you're talking about a subject and a topic, you want the person that's passionate because you want that passion to come across because that's what's going to grab your audience, and that's really what podcasting is. It's getting your creativity out there, and connecting to other people.
Sounds good. All right, let's pivot back to Amanda. Who should be on the camera, in the mic? Who should not?
I love this question. Like Peter, I do both. And so I kind of wear two hats. So I kind of get to shift my mind with both things. As he explained, when you're a producer, you want the person who is the most passionate. And sometimes that doesn't mean that they know the most. That means that somebody is going to feel what they're saying and they're going to connect. Because when you have that certain energy about something, there's a special love, there's a special excitement that comes with it, right? So you definitely want that person talking. And I am often a producer who likes to stay on time, but I'm also a producer who believes in letting creativity flow and knowing that moment. So I think it's very important as a producer to have that kind of rapport with whoever your talent is. And also somebody who I think anyone could be on the mic who is willing to learn. Just because I know how to talk and I, have good rapport, I know how to speak, that doesn't mean all the time I enunciate my words. I found out by watching myself back that I didn't complete sentences. And I thought that was interesting. I got so excited I would talk, but I didn't complete the sentence. So I think somebody who's willing to continue to develop that craft and always be learning. Literally always be learning and continuing to grow and not thinking that you're going to show up and just be the star. You don't want that person on the mic because they're going to mute everybody else. The person on the mic is going to illuminate whoever else is working with them, whoever's watching. So that's the person that you want on the mic and the people that you want to sit back and maybe learn if they want to see a couple of things.
I agree, because when I started in radio, I was one of those people when I got excited, I didn't finish sentences. I was just talking, and it's nothing like the thought in your head, but when you communicate it, people are like, well, what's the rest of the sentence? And they're trying to figure it out. So, and I thought I was sexy. I discovered I wasn't that either. So I get it. I get it.
Hey, I'm glad I'm not the only. I appreciate that. But it's like watching the tape back, right? In a sense, the producer is almost a coach, whether that means you're watching you back or your talent, your players, your team. So I love that.
Yes. Now, Darvio, you ain't have to laugh so hard when I said that. So I will slide it over to you. Who should be on the mic and on the camera, and who should not be?
Yeah, I think for me, and this is the thing I try to tell my talent also, like the most important thing is people who are comfortable with being themselves. I think sometimes people come into this space and they feel like they have to play a character. And a lot of times, if it's not sincere to who you are, that doesn't work. The best the best quote unquote character you can play is you being yourself with the volume turned up. And I think that is the most important thing that a lot of people, because, you know, sometimes people come in and they're doing what they think a podcaster is supposed to do, right? Like they're playing a role, and it's like, yo, don't do that. Like be yourself with the volume turned up, because that's what people are, especially now, because there's so many options and because you're dealing with a skeptical, cynical audience. People respect authenticity. So it's very important for you to be yourself. Those are the people I think should be on the mic. People who are not afraid to be themselves and not willing to play a character, so to speak, that's not true to who they are.
Love it. Love it. All right. We're at the 2:00 moment. So we're about to start asking questions. But before we do that, I want to get to Lucas and for him to wrap up this question. And as soon as he wraps up this question, shoot those hands up so we're going to open up for 10 questions. And then we're going to go back into the interviews with our experts. And then we're going to do a speed round at 2:20. So before we get into that, Lucas, who should be on the mic? Who should be on the camera? Who should not?
What they said. Everything they said was exactly it. And don't, I think the key is don't be afraid to try both if you want to. Like nobody can tell you what you can and can't do. That's what I love about it myself. Especially if you do your own thing. It's like I learned how to podcast while podcasting. I was just doing it. Nobody could tell me I was right or wrong. I did what Darvio said. I tried to be like the news story. I could hear like a Dateline news story in my head or something. I was trying to talk like Lester Holt or something. I don't know. Then a sportscaster was in my head. I'm like, I'm not Shannon Sharp, you know? So I had to find me. But once I found me, I'm like, I like me. I'm cool being me. I'm just going to be me and have fun being me. And I was comfortable doing that. And whatever side of the camera you find yourself feeling most comfortable, do it. And like several people on here, if you want to do both, don't let anybody tell you can't do both. Go do both boldly and be proud about it.
All right. I love it. All right. So with that being said, everybody, if you have a question, go ahead, shoot your hand up right now. Shoot your hand up right now. And we're going to start asking people there we go. I see the hands are popping up. All right. So here's a little etiquette because of time. When we call on you to ask your question, say your name and then ask your question and then stop talking so we can give them a chance to answer the question. So again, say your name, ask your question, stop talking so they can answer your question. So with that being said, let's first go to Charlotte Sellers. Charlotte Sellers, you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Lottie. My question is, how can you balance having a successful podcast and working a regular daytime job?
All right. Who wants to take that?
I'll take it. I mean, it's really, a podcast doesn't have to be looked at as a full-time job, right? So we do our Voice of the Land. We do it Sunday nights because we were actually following on the Big Play Network the Browns game. So we were a post-game show. So really, it all depends on how you want to do it, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. I still go back to, you just have to be consistent with it. So, and a podcast doesn't have to be a 3-hour Joe Rogan interview. It can be an easily digestible 15-minute, well thought out piece.
Love it. Anyone else want to take that?
I would like to add a beautiful thing that I think some people don't realize. Like Lucas and I, we do live shows, right? So that kind of ties you down to certain days and times. But most podcasting is pre-recorded. You can record 3 or 4 episodes in one day, whether you're doing video or audio. So it is the most versatile thing that you can add to your life that will fit right within your schedule. If you're like, my house isn't quiet until 10 o'clock, then that's when you record your podcast. Or make your noise a part of your podcast. Again, I'm very big on it being authentic to you, because those moms who are listening to podcasts, their background probably sounds exactly like yours. So like, however that is, whatever that means, I really want you guys to really think about, like Darvia was talking about being authentic, and I've been talking about bringing just you to it. All that stuff is real. And I really think people like the connectivity because of how many podcasts are out there. They want one that they can relate to the most. And you can only relate to something that's real.
Fantastic. Next person up, and we're going to go to Kyrie. Kyrie, you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Kyrie, and I want to ask, what are some of the things that you guys did not expect when you first started your podcast?
All right. Darvia or Lucas, you want to take that?
Yeah. Man, I don't know what I really expected. Like I didn't really expect anything when I first got into the podcasting space. I will say this, the way that it's developed, that the industry has developed so quickly, is something that I think many of us in the field didn't really expect. Especially for me, having more experience on the radio side before I crossed over into podcasting. It has just been, the field has grown tremendously and rapidly. It's like, drinking water from a fire hose, and I think that's probably the thing for me, is that you wake up one morning and there are 3 million 3 million podcasts now, and it does kind of impact your movements, your strategy, and all of those sorts of things. And it does put even more of an impetus of, like I was saying earlier, and like Amanda was just saying about the authenticity, because when people have 3 million choices, you have to give them a reason to choose you. So I think that's probably the thing I didn't expect the most when I first got into the podcasting space, is how quickly it would grow.
Fantastic. Lucas, you want to take a hit at it?
Yeah, I didn't expect the success I had, but the success was tied to the consistency. And the success was a metric that I had to measure based on what I wanted. I don't have a world famous million download podcast, but I have a very successful local podcast. And when I go to the store, people know who I am. And when I go to a local sports event, they let me in as media, so I've had access to things that I didn't think I'd have access. I've lived in the same town my whole life, and all of a sudden people know me, and I didn't expect that, but it was because I was genuine, I was consistent, and I cared. And then I brought people on in my community that people cared about, and I showed care to them. So it was all an economy, a system, a cycle that paid me back for giving back to my community.
Love it. Love it. All right. Thank you, Kyrie. Thank you, Lottie. Let's go to Madi. Madi, you have the floor. Or do you pronounce it Marie?
It's me, Marty. Hi, everyone. What's up, Phil? Long time no see.
What's good? All right, girl, ask your question.
So I'm going to hurry up and try to put this all in one breath, because I actually have 3 questions, but they're very quick and hopefully simple answers. So what are the best podcasters to watch that started weak and became strong? What's your opinion on multi-channel or multi-genre podcasts? There's people that I notice that have multiple channels, like on YouTube, like they have multiple podcasts going for different reasons. And what is the best outlet for newcomer podcasting?
Okay, she hit y'all with 3 questions, so we get 3 experts to answer one of those questions each.
So I'll tackle the multi-channel one. I think you can make that work depending on the uniqueness of the different genres. But I do think you want to manage that growth. You don't want to just jump out here and do a bunch of shows if all of them are only getting 10 downloads a week, right? Like, you want to take something and build, and then when you get to a point where you see that you have an audience that maybe might follow you to another show in a different genre, then you can do that. I think it's absolutely doable. Or the flip side of that is, if your goal is to create a network, then by nature you're starting with multiple shows. So that's different. But if you are a podcast host and you just want to add additional shows, you really want to manage the growth of that, but you can definitely do that.
All right. Who want to tackle the other two questions she asked?
Thank you, Dario.
I'm not sure if Dario answered kind of both of them. In a sense, kind of the genres and the YouTube. I know it's multiple channels, but he kind of answered the genre one too. So in an attempt to answer one of the other ones when he said that, is that truthfully, if you're going to do more than one show about different things, I'm all for it. That's the beauty of podcasting. You can do what you want. I would suggest, as he said, doing it on your own network. I don't think that more than one channel is necessary for you, because it's still, again, back to it's you and it's an extension of you. And then you just have more on one channel. And the more you have, even the variety of it is for more people, which gets it on more eyes, which increases the numbers. It's like having Walmart, for instance. We go there, we may not like it, but they have more stuff in one spot. So I keep finding myself there every week, no matter how annoyed I get every time I walk in that store, right? Because I don't have to go to 4 different stores to find what I want. In a sense, the channels and the genres are just like that.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you, Mari, for asking those questions. Also, keep in mind, everyone, as you're doing your podcasting, one word, very popular, and we will do another series on it later, branding. If you're in multiple places, you're killing your branding. So if you can centralize it, now we know Amanda shops at Walmart. So, you want to keep that branding center. So if y'all happen to be someplace and you're at Walmart, you might see Amanda walking down the highway. So, all right, we've got 5 questions that's been asked. We've got 5 more questions that before we pivot back into the interview. We're at 2:12. So is it Shaylee? Shaylee, you've got the floor.
Yes, thank you. My question is, I have a subject that is a sensitive subject for our podcast idea. And my question is, what is the style or format that you would suggest that I use to approach this podcast? Is that too vague?
That was a good question. Be a little more specific. Since you're talking to the pros and the experts, what specifically are your topics about?
It's touching on mental health, and it's going to focus on one particular mental health issue. And I want to make sure that I'm not stepping on any toes, but at the same time, I'm informative and able to give enough information about the topic to people. And I also don't want to lead with one thing, but leave it so narrow that I can't give information about other things,
Mm-hmm. All right. Who wants to take that?
Well, I can take that. I think, first of all, knowing your audience is important, knowing how they're going to relate to it. I know, I'll give you an example. One thing that we did on one of the shows, because we produce a lot of news commentary and political commentary and stuff like that in some of our podcasts. And one show was tackling a very sensitive topic, and it was going to be for the entire show. So we talked about it. The host, came to me with what they wanted to do. I supported what they wanted to do, but we both came to the conclusion that would probably be a good idea to run a disclaimer at the beginning before the show aired. So then this way, right off at the top, this is what it's going to be. This is what we're talking about. If you got a problem with it, cut it off, right? So I think that's, something like that may be the best bet depending on what the particular topic is. But the other thing too is just, if it's something that you think your audience will embrace and it's something that matters to you, go for it and be fearless. Fearless doesn't mean reckless. You know what I mean? Don't be reckless.
You don't get it. But
be fearless.
NHL, and talking about baseball.
Can we mute Tyler? Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Lucas. Thank you so much, Darvio. Lucas, I know you wanted to take that too, so go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to step out there, you're going to step on toes. So that just happens because people put their toes in the way. I don't know why. They just like that sometimes. So don't be afraid to take a step and know that you may step on toes. You can say, I don't mean to step on any toes, but if your toes is in the way, I need to step. I'm trying to get to somebody to help somebody. So if you're in the way, just being sensitive to what I'm saying as I'm pressing through the crowd to try to help somebody, you got to move for the ambulance. You just got to get out of my way. I'm trying to help someone. I'm not doing this to be a shock jock. I'm not doing this just to say something controversial and hoping to get views and listens and downloads. If that's what you're doing, that's not my thing. I wouldn't recommend it. But if your real aim is I have to get to the person who may be where I used to be, or get to the person who's where my loved one or someone I know used to be, or I'm educated in a manner that I can go help somebody, you got to move your toes. I'm the ambulance. I'm coming to help somebody. The siren is on. Get out of the way. Like Darvio said, you don't have to listen, but I got to step forward.
Love it. Love it. All right. So thank you so much, Shante, for asking those questions. Before we go to, and we've got questions that are in the commentaries as well. So we're going to get to those as well. But because of sake of time, what I want to do is ask this question because it's very, very pivotal, and I want to give the experts time to ask it. How do you make money doing a podcast? And I want to follow that up with, is there money to be made doing a podcast? So, can I make money? How can I make money? I'm going to leave that open to whoever wants to answer it first.
I'll answer that. Yes, there is money to be made. Is there a lot of money to be made? Potentially. You're not gonna walk out and get a big contract, get big advertisers. We have some advertisers on our podcast that pay the bills. Another podcast that I produced was actually for a company. So it was for BetJack Casino. So they were actually bankrolling that podcast because it was tied into the now legal sports betting in Ohio. So there's money to be made. It's not always easy. And the caveat with that is when you do get advertisers, you have to be careful because sometimes that will limit what you can do on your podcast too. Because you've seen this with backlash and like the Joe Rogan show or things like that, where his opinions on certain topics can cause a backlash among people. It can cause a backlash among advertisers. So you do have to be careful when you do get advertisers because there can be some conflict there. So yeah, there's money to be made, and I'm sure Darvio could also weigh in on this because I know he's been very successful with his network.
All right.
Yeah.
Darvio, you got the floor.
Yeah, I think Peter made a lot of great points and I agree with a lot of them as well. Yes, there's money to be made. Yes, you can make money. You can make it with advertisers. You can make it with corporate podcasts. We've produced some corporate podcasts as well. And as far as the advertiser goes, Peter is absolutely right. It can create an issue sometimes. I know one of our hosts had a topic that one of our sponsors weren't too particularly fond of, and we had to kind of deal with that, losing a client, an advertising client that was like 10 grand plus. So that was fun. But at the same time too, we've established an audience and we were able to quickly replace that advertiser with another one, right? So those things are going to happen, particularly if you are talking about sensitive topics. And I mean, if we're going to be honest, it's 2023, everything is sensitive to some people. So you're gonna, like Lucas said earlier, it is inevitable that you're going to step on people's toes unless you're going to be a robot and not say anything of any consequence whatsoever. Other than that, it is inevitable that you're going to step on somebody's toes. You're going to make somebody mad. You're going to have somebody in their feelings tweeting about you at some point, particularly if your show becomes successful. But the most important thing there is knowing your audience, building that relationship with the audience, and finding advertisers who are compatible with your audience. There are some advertisers who are not afraid of quote unquote controversial content. There are some advertisers who are not afraid to put their brand with people who speak their mind. In some cases, it's better for that particular advertiser because they have a brand that's similar as well. So the brand synergy is important too. Know who you're dealing with, know who your advertiser is, and make sure that it matches your audience and your content.
Love it.
Peter, do you mind if I jump in really quick? Or Philip, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I thought of something. It wasn't said, so I felt like I needed to add something different. Something beautiful about podcasting, it's really another way to market yourself. So although your podcast may not be making money, your coaching business could be making money. Whatever product you're selling could be making money. So really understanding that the podcast also is a branding and marketing tool for you and whatever else you're doing. If you bake cakes, y'all know how many people on TikTok and Instagram making money because all they doing is making cakes in their kitchen? Also, it's something so simple as that. So really, again, just understanding this is kind of it's really kind of your world. Like there is no limitation, lack, or failure in this space. The only failure is if you stop. The consistency, keep going to see what works for you. And as Philip put in the comments, it's about networking and with people. I've made more money off of, I worked with Lucas without pay. I loved what I was doing and I was gaining experience. I knew he was going to do that. He pays me now. He pays me now when I started, I mean, but it was the connection and it was the connections that I made that helped grow Dukes Multimedia. It was more beneficial for me to be a service to him. And I was gaining a lot more of even the people that I've met now, I'm still working with, they're still contacting us to do things. So we are making money by that connection. So please understand that networking, the connection and relationship with people is really the key, whether it's advertising, sponsorships, what have you. That is where you make your money, your relationship with people.
Love it. Lucas, you got the floor.
I need it because I got to clear my name. I do pay her now. But listen, this is the beautiful part, right? She saw me doing something with a great eye for talent, apparently. No, she saw me doing something. I wasn't making any money, right? I'm like, no, I can't pay you from what? Like from my other stuff? Like that didn't make any sense. So she was like, no, I believe in what you're doing. Somebody out there, you are in media school, you learn some skills that someone else could use. And you may find somebody out there that you enjoy their show. Maybe you can be an intern for them. Maybe you can reach out and do something even remotely to help them that would build relationships and build connection. I said her name on my podcast more than I said my own name. So people associated her with a great show that was on every day and all this stuff was going on and people were reaching out to her. People liked her more than me and I didn't like that, but I got over it. I figured it out. It was okay. But she's absolutely right. I did a live podcast and I went live to LinkedIn as well. And a lot of people didn't. But what happened was business contacts I had, this still happens, would magically remember me. They would call me and say, hey, I was wondering about you doing this business deal. And I'm like, I went live yesterday. They saw my name pop up and it reminded them of all the things that I do or the area that they know me in. And they called me and I had all kinds of business deals go through because I was top of mind because I was relevant. And again, I do pay Amanda now. Thank you. That's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Now, it's funny, we laughing about it, but everyone listening, especially for people who are getting started in whatever you're doing in media, this is very, very important. You have insight, you have knowledge, you have information, and the rest of the world is saying good for you. If you expect me to pay you for that insight, that knowledge, and that information, show me you can make it work. Just because you have an idea doesn't mean that idea is going to generate revenue for me. So if you really think your idea is going to generate revenue, if you really think your idea is going to generate money, if you really think that information is going to generate profit, put some skin in the game. In other words, do it without pay to show that what you can do will generate pay. Just want to let you know that. All right, with that being said, We are now 2:24. We got about 4 hands up. We've got a lot of comments in. Thank you for the experts for responding to the comments. Let's get to these last four. We got to do this literally in 4 minutes. So, Dantes, you got the floor. Say your name, ask your question.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dantes Love. I actually have a question about I'm coming from the beauty industry, and as a perfectionist, how do you hone in on not overdoing it and messing up?
All right, that's going to be a speed round. We get one expert to answer it, and we're going to move on to the next one. Who wants to take it?
I'll take this one. You can't be perfect. As much as you want to be, you can't be, and you can't sacrifice being done for perfection. So the big thing to learn is know when it's good enough. You don't want to put out something bad, but you're never going to get something absolutely perfect.
Love it. Thank you, Dantes. Armand, you got the floor. Ask your question. Say your name, ask your question.
Yeah, I go by Larry, but I want to know, starting off, do you guys think it's easier to start off with an audio podcast or a video podcast, and which one do the audience like more?
All right, who wants to take that? Lucas, Peter, or Lucas, Darvio? Or Darvio, you got it?
No, Lucas. If Lucas wants to take it, he can take it.
Darvio, you got it. He said it's all yours.
Well, a couple of things. One, it depends on where you're at. If it's your desire to have an audio and video podcast, then you can start off with that. If it's going to hinder you putting content out, then I would do what you can do to put the content out. So if that means you have to start with audio and add video later, or vice versa, whichever one is easier for you, so be it. The most important thing is getting the content out. You can't begin to grow if you have nothing that's out here in the public sphere. So whatever route you take the route that is the easiest route for you to get to market now. Because it's always easier and better to scale up versus starting too big and it doesn't work and then you scale down. Or you end up waiting and holding yourself back because you can't do the bells and whistles and fireworks and all of this from the beginning. Do what you can right now, because the most important thing is to get to market so you can start to grow.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, Larry, for asking your question. Last but not least, last question of the day. Jay Harden 76, you have the floor. Say your name, ask your question.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much. My name is Jay Harden, and I'm just looking to find out where you want to start your podcast, like at the studio, at the school. Like, is there a home fix you can do? That's where I'm starting at.
All right, Amanda or Lucas?
Well, I think Lucas and I kind of did it similar in different fashions. But I think if you, again, comes down to consistency. If you can get to the school and you can consistently do that, do that. I started at home with my phone. That's how I started my podcast. But again, and I built from there. Started my phone. I got mics. I got the laptop that I needed, and then added in video. Like, it's how you remain consistent and build. People like watching and being part of the story too. Speaking for Lucas a little bit, his audience started out by helping him choose the name of his podcast. So now they have this small investment into this. So it encourages them to keep going and growing. So really, again, it comes to what fits in your life, what fits for you to help you remain consistent. There is no right or wrong here. It's a beautiful space of podcasting. It really is what's best for you, your audience, and how you can remain consistent to keep doing the work and keeping yourself out there.
Sounds good. Lucas, since that was the last question, I'm going to let you add to it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Start where you can. As everyone on here said, don't let the paralysis of analysis stop you from getting started. If it's something you're serious about, you can literally start with your phone. You're talking into it all the time anyway. Hit record, go to get a podcasting app, and you can record it on there and upload those things. I started with probably my webcam, because I started as a video podcast. I just went live to my Facebook page. That's all I knew to do. I didn't even call it a podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. I told you I was grieving. I was dealing with something. And I probably looked like the grandmother on Zoom or Teams, like touching the camera. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, are you out there? Nobody was on, except my wife maybe, and one of my children who like me. I don't know. And it started off slow. And then I just kept going, though. I was fearless. I remember looking at the number of people on the live stream thinking, I cannot fear that number. There's 2 people on, and they're probably in my house. 3 people on, and probably my neighbor. 4 people on. And as the number grew, and still sometimes there's not a ton of people on in a particular thing, but by the end of the run, it's gotten a lot more views. Nonetheless, start with what you have and study. I watched YouTube videos. I connected with Amanda, who knew more than I knew. People loved my show so much, they started buying my equipment for me. People were like, what can I do for you? I was like, I don't know. I was looking at this microphone on Amazon. They were like, send me the link, and then they'd send me the thing. I've gotten multiple things from family, friends, and people in the community who just wanted to support me because I was genuine, authentic, and I was doing something positive in my community. So start with what you have and build from there.
Well, everyone, we are now at 2:30. So we have reached the end of the BeOnAir Forum. Thank you so much, Lucas. Thank you so much, Amanda, Darvio, and Peter for being our guests. My name is Philip Bufford. I'm your host for today. And with that being said, we're going to turn it back over to Linda. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Linda, you got the floor.
Oh, thank you so much. I know we're at 2:30 and I appreciate everybody's time more than anything today, but the advice that was given was really priceless. I sat back here with that. You couldn't see me, but I was smiling, I was laughing, I was cheering you on, I was clapping, I was writing notes, and I hope everybody else was doing that same kind of thing. I just have to say, I go back to my Amanda and I think about when she first got started and she had her Amanda effect. She had her little podcast that she wanted to spread positivity and she was doing everything she could to talk about positive things and finding that pathway to grow her audience. And look at her, like it's just a few years later. And I think about Darvio and I think about our students who have come on board with him that started off just wanting to know. They maybe didn't know, but they were passionate, and Darvio saw that in them and he kept grooming them. And now one of the stars on his podcast is a graduate of our school, Robin, and we're so very, very proud. Robin and Amanda were classmates together, and Peter, who's watched our students grow. It's all possible. And Lucas, a new friend who spreads the word of positivity everywhere. And of course, Philip, who comes from a place in his heart. He knows this business, he knows students, he knows what it takes to grow. And I think the pearls of wisdom delivered here were fabulous. So I thank you all. I'm not going to take one more minute, but what I will ask for is if our guests could just give me a picture. I can't resist it. Huda, if you're on board, if you could take a snapshot too. But I haven't caught one picture with y'all smiling at me. So if you could just smile, that would, oh, Amanda, get that. Oh, John, get out of there. You could stay if you want. Okay. 1, 2, 3. You didn't really do that, John Gerard, did you? Okay. I'll have to put something in that square. But anyhow, thank you all. You were absolutely fabulous. And for anybody wanting to connect with our guests, they're all on LinkedIn. You can find them on LinkedIn. I know they put emails in the chat, and we will share that information with you as well. And again, thank you for your time on this Monday in January. Are we in January still? What month is this? Yeah, we still are. So keep moving forward and be fearless. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. That's awesome.